everyone, welcome back to the Engineered Angler and part 2 of making a flat-sided crankbait with a rattle in it. In the first episode, which was last week, I showed you how you could reproduce my drawing. We took the drawing template, put it on a piece of wood, and we cut it out. I showed you how to get the rattle chamber in it. I double-checked the weight of that rattle, and then we glued it together. And now we're back. Before we get into part 2 and actually finishing this lure, I promised to sort of address questions and some of the comments from part 1. I got a lot of comments about how I actually shape the lure and really good suggestions on other ways to shape the lure. And I totally get it, there's a million ways to actually do it. My intention in this video was to make it as accessible as possible. If this was your very first lure, you'd be able to get the materials easily and then draw your own and get it done without any special tools. There was a good comment about how I didn't cut my lip slot while I had a nice rectangular piece of wood. My intention was to do so, that was my mistake. That's why I drew it out while it was still kind of a rectangle. I got in a hurry and I moved forward before I should have. Let's move on, let's go ahead and take the lure and put some foil on it, get it painted, and then I'd take it to the big lake, we'll get some underwater shots, and maybe I'll do a little fishing with it. Alright, so it's nice and set up now. I'm going to go ahead and just give it a light sanding. So here's a little tip on squaring up your lip. Now, it's a good idea to put your lines back in if you've sanded them off so you can use them as reference. And what I like to do is to draw a line down the middle, and that is going to help me with alignment quite a bit. Help me center it up, and it'll help me sight the squareness with the center of the lure and the alignment. Make sure that you sight down it both from the tail and the bottom forward, from the nose forward. I like to look at it on a perfect edge, so all I'm seeing is a line of the bib and I can see how square it is. I'm going to glue this in with that same thin AC glue with the idea that as I put a droplet it'll just get sucked into that gap. Alright, I've got it exactly where I want it. I'm going to put my first drop of glue on it. Okay, so I'm going to give it another light sanding, and then I'm going to tape off the bib so I don't get any paint on it later. Alright, I've given it a last bit of cleanup sanding, and I really like the way it feels and the way it looks. Now, the next question most people are going to ask me is, how am I going to seal this wood? So here comes an answer a lot of people aren't going to like. I'm not really too worried about sealing my wood. Now, the only reason I seal wood is to make sure that it takes paint well. Otherwise, I really have very little use for sealing. And this is why. I'm not making heirloom lures. Most of my lures end up on the end of my line, and I've lost so many lures on the first cast from bluefish and other fish with a lot of teeth that I've lost that inclination to make lures that will last a lifetime. If it's meant to be just a beautiful lure that you want to keep around forever, certainly seal it, it'll help. On this lure, I'm going to put foil on it. And I've already cut my foil out, and I'm going to lay foil in. We'll put some foil patterns in there, and then I'll give it its first clear coat to protect everything, and then we'll lay on our paint, and we'll put a couple more clear coats on it. So let's get started on the foil. So I just used my lure template to make an outline of the lure. Basically twice the length of the lure, fold it over. And then this way I'm cutting out both the right and left side, and I cut everything this side of the fold and cut the last piece at the fold so that it all stays aligned the whole time I'm cutting it. Alright, we've got left and right. So when you do this, there's always going to be a little bit of foil that laps on to your bib. So all I ever do is just cut it off. I don't get too fussy about it. it usually comes off pretty easily. And if you saw my video on texturing lures, you know I've made some tools and I'm going to use those tools today. I'm going to put in a lateral line and then a little bit of a fine scale pattern above the eye and above that lateral line. Let's put in a scale pattern just above the lateral line. Alright, I think that's pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is, to make sure those details really pop, is I'm going to spray paint some black onto it, wipe off the very top of it, and leave black down in those little crevices, and then we'll put a clear coat on. I went ahead and taped my bib, and I'm also going to drill the hole for the tail, and I'll do the same for the belly hook and the nose hook. Just remember, the nose hook has to be run above the eye so that we don't get into the rattle chamber. Alright, and so for these hook hangers, I'm just going to mix a little more of that 5-minute epoxy and just smear it on the threads a little bit. Alright, I got the tail on. I'm going to go ahead and put the belly on. I like to back it out every now and then as I'm putting it in. Kind of making threads. And now I'll back it all the way out and put some glue on it. Alright, I made a twist eye for the tie-on eye on the nose because I want something that I can manipulate later. Well, we're getting a little bit of some squalls from the hurricane that's running up the East Coast, but this is probably as bad as it'll get. Alright, we're in the paint booth. I'm going to wipe this down with a little bit of alcohol. Alright, I'm going to let it dry just a little bit and then start wiping. Meantime, I got to clean this thing. Alright, so the little bit of wood sealing we're actually going to do is for the top and the bottom. And all I'm doing is I'm using my polyacrylic mid coat and just laying in a thin coat that will serve to seal that section of wood and give me a nice base to put a clear coat on it. That should do it. It's been about an hour. Gave me a chance to get lunch. So there you go. Pretty glossy finish. This is a great time to take this thing down to the dock and see how straight it runs. Whew, forgot my sunglasses. Well, we're down at the dock and hopefully we'll have enough time to do something because those squall lines are coming in from the hurricane. See that? Almost perfectly suspending. See what it looks like when I retrieve it a little bit. Nice. Really digs and wants to dive really well. Has a nice action. It's a little bit untuned right now. Definitely wants to go to my left. Alright, so we'll go ahead and tune it in against the direction it wants to go. Alright, I got it right on the money now. It's amazing how much more it'll dive when it's tuned. Oh yeah, this thing has a great action. Time to go. Alright, back in the shop. Alright, so we're going to get out our transparent paints, and I'm going to be doing maybe 3 different colors. I'm going to start with gold along the bottom here, then green on all the areas that are textured, and then we'll get with the magenta and violet in here, and then we'll do some striping with a darker green. So let's start with the lighter color first. I'm going to switch to the magenta. And I really like the way the gold underneath mixes with that magenta. It goes kind of orange. Very cool. I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then we'll switch to a violet. Alright, now it's time to switch to more natural colors like green. Alright, so this looks a little bit, I don't know, clownish and disco-y, but we're going to pull it all together with some darker colors and more natural patterns as well. On the bottom, I'll put in a pearlescent white, and that should make it look really, really realistic. Alright, so I'm really liking the way these colors are combining. They look really nice. So now I want to put some vertical stripes, and I'm going to use the old comb trick. I've got this old comb, and you see I've broken some teeth off this side so I can get wider gapped stripes, and that's when I use the wider gap. Let's lay in some green on top to tie everything else together. Now I'm going to give it a little bit of a misting of blue in here, just to capture some blue around the eye and around that lateral line, just to accentuate the bluegill coloring. Alright, I think we're good. Well, how about a little bit of red right there at the chin? Awesome. Little pearlescent red on the bottom. And we're ready for some eyes and another clear coat. Love the iridescence of that blue. Alright, let's get a clear coat on this thing. It's time to open this thing up and take a look at what we got. Looks pretty good. Oh, that looks pretty. That looks pretty nice. No horrendous flaws or anything. No. After you clear coat, a lot of times you'll need to do another little session of getting it nicely tuned, because sometimes the clear coat will throw off the tune just a little bit. So here's a close-up shot of the finish and the way the colors sort of blend together. And I really like the way the blue and the gold and the violet sort of play together. Really like the way this came out. I've thrown it in my lake a couple times, but really haven't got a really good look at how it acts underwater. It seems to retrieve real nice with a little bit of hunting, so it's got a real nice action. So let's tie it on and give it a shot. Dives, comes up nice and slow. Look at that. Perfect. All right, let's give it a long cast. And let's see how nice and straight it comes back. I can tell you you can feel it twitch to the left and twitch to the right, but it comes back pretty much straight in. From casting it in my lake, I'm getting about 6 feet, 7 feet of depth. All right. All right, I've got that. I'm gonna drop it into the water and we'll get some underwater shots. Pretty happy with the action. It's really stable, has a nice movement, casts okay for a flat-sided. So thank you for watching. If you guys are enjoying these kind of videos, definitely subscribe and give me a thumbs up. It helps keep me bringing these kind of videos to you. I'm gonna keep fishing and I'll catch you on the next video.